RK's Guyana Free Media presents for human development and national development this message.
Yes, dearest friends and family, welcome to this RK's Guyana Free Media, which saw its gestation and embryonic stage and birth on the day the conch started on the 3rd of March and the 4th of March. It became necessary for the gestation, fertilization, and birth of the RK's Guyana Free Media. It's created history from then to now, dearest friends and families around the world. So friends and families, we are now in a moment of history about to take place. We have seen a one-term presidency of David Arthur Granger's government. The will of the people has been accepted. I will encourage the former government that is about to leave to have a beautiful transition of great maturity, love, respect, come out in such a beautiful way. And if the president could see this before the declaration, if he could concede defeat, it will be a sign of maturity for him and for Guyana, and all that we lost over the last few months could be regained by just simply conceding to Dr. Irfan Ali and the PPPC. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It is, if there is any shame, it is even worse off to just walk out. Come out and compliment and concede and show elegance and maturity, beauty and power of the start of a new Guyanese society. We are in the times of greatness of Guyana. We are in times of great harmony and love, depending upon how the political powers move. We are at a time when I've encouraged President-elect, and by the time this come out and a few days after, he will be President of the Republic of Guyana with Dr. Irfan Ali, with Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, in team, in tandem, working with the peoples of Guyana, hopefully will, with the opposition, to build a prosperous and a beautiful Guyana, something extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do some readings today, of course in a different mode, in a different style. Taken from the KAIETEUR News, basically it's in all the newspapers, of June 17, 2020. The Carter Center, winner must not take all. The KAIETEUR Center has made a call for constitutional reform to be a high priority for the incoming victors of the March 2nd, 2020 general and regional elections, with the aim of abolishing the winner-takes-all system. The KAIETEUR Center said, going forward, we call on all Guyanese to prioritize efforts to strengthen Guyana's democratic institutions and advance constitutional reforms to move beyond the winner-takes-all system, in a statement issued yesterday. Despite not being allowed entry into Guyana, and I would like to make a commentary here, that has brought great shame to the government that's going out, that you denied one of the mightiest and most recognized group that caters for democracy in the world, deny them entry into little poor Guyana. Sad. Indeed it is. A huge mistake. President David Granger and Mr. Harman, huge mistake. Huge mistake. To observe the national recount, the KAIETEUR Center continue to support and pay keen attention to Guyana's electoral process, again expressing disappointment that the numerous requests for entry were denied. I also, commentary as a Guyanese citizen, was very painful for me, who was also an observer, to observe that an entity of the KAIETEUR Center was not allowed into the country, nor any other who were out were not allowed to enter into Guyana. They were also in high praise of the CARICOM scrutineering team report, submitted to the chair of the Guyana Election Commission, GECOM, retired Justice Claudine Singh, on Monday, 16th. Although the Centre is disappointed that it was not allowed to return to Guyana to directly observe the recount, it is encouraged by CARICOM's largely positive report on the recount process, the statement said. And as an observer commentary, myself, friends and family, I was there. The recount process was fantastic, classy and stylish, just as the original count, except for when it came to Region 4 under Mingo and the conspirators. Back to the report. Further, the KAIETEUR Center commended the GECOM on the completion of the recount process and welcomed the CARICOM report, which indicated that despite minor flaws in the process, the recount results are acceptable and provide the basis for a declaration of results from the March 2nd election. The KAIETEUR Center pointed out that they have previously stated that while electoral preparations and voting and counting procedures met international standards, the March tabulation process for Region 4 generated results that were deemed by the KAIETEUR and other international and domestic observers, of which I was one, yours truly, as not credible. The results of the national recount show that the People's Progressive Party has won with a grand total of 233,336 votes against the APNU and AFC coalition of 217,920 votes. During the reading of the first part of this three-part reading presentation of Elections 2020, Part 60, and now we will see Guyana the Beautiful, not Elections Madness. Elections, Guyana the Beautiful. The mode and things have changed. We have to move with the mood and the mode. Time for love. Time for joy. Time for forgiveness. Time for healing. Before I continue on the part 2, ladies and gentlemen, that has become a practice on RK's Guyana Free Media. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to sanitize. Do not take chances. Move your rings. It should be for at least 20 seconds all around, and you can rub along the exposed parts of your body as well. And don't forget to wear your face mask. This is just national service to remind everyone. And when you wear this, avoid rubbing the front and putting your hands underneath and scratching. And then holding the front, you need to hold the edge. And periodically spray this and air it out with an alcoholic based, like Environ from DDL, liquid that they sell now as a sanitizer. Part 2, taken from KAIETEUR News, June 17, 2020, Belief and Reality by Peeping Tom. When the human immunodeficiency virus, known as HIV or AIDS, first appeared, it amounted to a virtual death sentence. Once you got the virus, then you knew that you were going to die. And the commentary is that also you were going to suffer a lot until you die. Back to the article. The treatments now used to prolong the life of those infected with HIV were not available back then. Infection with HIV thus meant death within a short period of time. It also carried a stigma which many tried to escape by either concealing the disease or claiming that they had other fatal conditions. There were many persons whose relatives claimed that they died from cancer, when in fact the real cause was complications from the virus, HIV or AIDS. A friend of mine was tested positive in the early years. The doctors told him that he'd been infected with the virus. He knew that the diagnosis meant that he would die young. But in his mind, he did not want to accept that he had the virus. And this belief led him to be in denial. He died believing that one of his former lovers had placed an omen on him, and that it was this evil spirit that was responsible for his illness. He was not an unintelligent man. He was highly educated, but he wanted to believe something other than the truth. So I guess you get, friends and families, quick commentary, guess you know I'm coming up to something from Mr. Peeping Tom. The doctors had told him that he had tested positive, he had all the classical symptoms, which was acceptable to him, and which was a full-blown AIDS, but that was not a reality which he could accept, because it shone the spotlight on his numerous sexual indiscretions and promiscuity. He took another way out, the way of denial. He died believing that his illness was as a result of an evil spell. His belief became his reality. There was another woman from the same village. She was an extremely religious person. She believed in her heart that she was the beneficiary of divine protection, and there was no personal challenge which she could not overcome with the intercession of God. She insisted repeatedly that she was washed with the blood of Jesus, and no disease could prevail against her. It did not dawn on her that perhaps the same Jesus whom she loved had his own plans for her. And so when she got sick, she refused to take her medication, telling her doctors that God would cure her. She died in hospital from a curable illness. What she wanted to believe had become her reality. When the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak first occurred, there were some persons who felt that it was all a hoax concocted by the large pharmaceutical companies. Some of them are still of the belief that there is no coronavirus in Guyana. They do not wish to be restrained in their lifestyles, and so they have internalized a belief that there is no virus. They've made it into their reality and are denying the existence of the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, my emphasis. When what you want becomes your reality, it can lead to denial and delusion. And this manifests itself even when it comes to politics. And there we go. There are persons out there who may seem irrational in arguing that the APNU-FC won the elections. It seems brazen, barefaced and contemptuous for anyone to have such a position. But there are many intelligent and respectable persons who desperately wanted the APNU and AFC to win the elections. They are stuck with this blind loyalty to the coalition to the extent that this has become their reality, the source of the present delusion. They cannot accept that the party which they support has lost convincingly and fairly. They cannot accept it. They cannot accept it, I beg your pardon, because they do not wish to accept it. They, like the man who could not accept that he was infected with HIV, or the woman who could not contemplate that God would not allow a disease to get the better of her. These supporters of the APNU and AFC are clutching at straws, says Peeping Tom. The truth is there in front of their faces, with the reality indeed. The truth is too hard for them to accept. This is not what they want. What they want has obsessively become an obsession. It has become their reality. They have to find justification for that reality, and so they continue to parrot the debauched narrative that the dead got up and voted, and that migrant people voted even though not a single such case was reported on election day in 2,339 polling stations across the country. And if I might say, they have even accused, my commentary, their own youths, children of PNC, hardliners and dedicated loyal PNC people, some APNU or an AFC, that they became corrupted and they were bought out. I mean, this is painful, hurtful, and totally embarrassing for even a man like James Anthony Bond, an attorney who's supposed to be a man of a certain intellect. And other intelligent people you speak to would say that all their people has betrayed them. That's a sad state of affair. Back to the article, last paragraph. It is not that these people are stupid. It is simply their desire becoming their reality. I repeat, it is not that these people are stupid. It is simply that their desire becoming their reality. Their belief has become their reality. When they claim that the election results were flawed, it is not always a cause of dishonesty, says Peeping Tom. He says it can be a case of delusion. I repeat, it can be a case of delusion, and for emphasis I repeat, it can be a case of delusion. Dearest friends and family, part 3 of this newscast of elections 2020, oh beautiful Guyana, no more elections madness. And this is Freddie Kissoon's in today's Wednesday edition of June 17th, 2020. If any young guy in his 40 years from now is asked what the significance of June 16, 2020 is, he, she may not know. But if that day is a holiday, if there is a statute on some popular spot in Guyana that symbolizes its importance, then it becomes self-explanatory. A commentary, I think he's trying to get to the fact that June 16th, yesterday, became history even for he himself. Because he predicted that the Chickham chair will not declare and will not acquiesce to the fact that the PPC and Irfan Ali has won the election. Well, he made an assessment, and these things happen when you make assessments or analysis. But all in all, Freddie Kissoon has done a wonderful job through this period. And as a commentator today, and as a person who tried to think much, I wish to compliment him and thank him for his exposés and for his articulations over the last 3 months in particular. And I go on. I'm recommending one of two things to President Irfan Ali as a matter of extreme urgency: create a national holiday for June 16th, or the day when the declaration is final, or erect a bust of the face of the following persons: Bruce Golding, Owen Arthur, American Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch, Canadian High Commissioner Lillian Chatterjee, British High Commissioner Gray Quinn, and EU Ambassador Fernando Pons Canto. I salute. And who knows, they make some now out of some other material, and you can have it made of styrofoam, waterproof styrofoam, that can be used for this and placed in some building. I agree with our good friend Freddie Kissoon. Listen carefully, please, ladies and gentlemen. You need to listen to this very carefully. Freddie Kissoon is saying these people kept alive Guyanese freedom to vote and have that vote counted. Absolutely, commentary. If it wasn't for them, ladies and gentlemen, we would have lost our votes, and the incumbent government would have perpetuated themselves in powers, and the bleeding of the treasury would have continued, most likely without the knowledge of President Granger, and Guyana would have become failed state, because the friends and families getting the contracts and all the big monies being kept amongst themselves, and the bulk of the people kept in a state of degradation, shame and pain. My personal viewpoint. Back to the article. These people kept alive Guyanese freedom to vote and to have that vote counted. I'm repeating for emphasis. We should forever be grateful to them. When you conceptualize their presence in Guyana related to 1968, then you will come to understand that the names mentioned above have left an indelible legacy in this sad country. Repeat, then you will come to understand that the names mentioned earlier by Freddie Kissoon have left an indelible legacy in this sad country. Commentary. Some of them were abused, attacked in the media, before their voice, Sarah Ann Lynch and Ms. Chatterjee, American and Canadian High Commissioners and Ambassadors, were molested in public. People threw tantrums and remark, and a popular lawyer, youthful lawyer, was there with $5,000 monies in his hand, and he was telling them when to raise their hand and misbehave and when to calm down. It's a total shame. They've lost a lot of friends, and they've tried to destroy people's life and have lost more friends. Tried to deny them their appointments and awards that they may be entitled to. Look at how they took away the senior counsel of that gentleman from the ANOG, Timothy Jonas. They took away the gentleman's senior counsel at the last minute. You can't do things like this, politicians, President Granger, Mr. Harman. You can't do things like this and survive and live like normal. You can't manipulate and trick games on a constant basis and expect the universe to bless you and pave your way in gold. You have to pay the consequences. For the sins you commit 2 by 2, you and I have to pay for them 1 by 1. And I wrote many letters, open letter to the president. I wrote him personal letters to which he replied. I gave him sound guidance how to win friends and influence people. But instead, the government that is exiting created more enemies in the country and turned their own people against them. I know this for a fact. It's a sad situation. Let us all learn from it. Particularly the APNU AFC. But for me, the AFC is out. I'm talking about the APNU or particularly the PNC. After 23 years, they got power. They should have used this 5 years not to embellish, enrich, and enhance themselves, at least some of them. They should have taken care of the people And I'm going to repeat the words again. Win hearts and minds. I repeat. I'm going to ask my operator to put it up there. Politicians, for all of you to learn. Win hearts and mind. And read this book, all you politicians, if you haven't, or read it again, by Dale Carnegie. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's an old book that's perpetual in its knowledge. So my operator is going to put that book up also there. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Here now is back to the article. Here now is the contextual argument. In 1968, Forbes Burnham and his PNC party thought that the only way the party can survive in power was to rig the election because a split vote may see the United Force and the PPP in a coalition, thus ending the PNC's reign. A quick commentary there, ladies and gentlemen. This is why they knew what was going on. They had the SOPs. They didn't show it till now. They have not shown it. So they know what the result was. And so they created this idea of the migrant votes. And they created this idea in a particular area in order to create confusion with this thing called possible credibility, that in the PPPC stronghold of Region 4, that the PPPC will instruct or control the PNC agent, the PPP agent, the police, the RO, the presiding officers, the supervisors and all the staff to remove some books. But it has been proven that it was the RO for Region 4 who instructed them to take it out and put it in a special package to create credibility. You see, creating the shenanigans and the confusion, you cannot do this and hope to win respect. You cannot do this and hope that God and the universe will protect you and give you power. I repeat again. For the sins you commit 2 by 2, you have to pay for them 1 by 1. I'll ask my operator to put it on the wall. For the sins you commit 2 by 2, you have to pay for them 1 by 1. And I'm not mocking anybody. I'm giving counsel as a commentator and as a positive citizen of the country and as an ambassador of peace. I'm not mocking anybody at all. The PNC has got to come out and say they made a mistake. That they made mistakes. And talk to the people and apologize to the sugar workers. Because you never spoke to them. Even your minister in the upper quarantine didn't know until he read it in the papers. And you expect those people will vote for the AFC? Ladies and gentlemen, please, let us take care of this country, and you who have made a mistake, say your mistake, learn from it, and try to create the environment, not by fighting and misbehaving and hoping to blackmail, because from my understanding, the PPPC is no weakling party, and they have international support. So no kind of protest and misbehavior will cause them to concede in this case. You have to use psychology, wisdom, and good leadership to create this ambience of trust for inclusive government, shared government, or a government where winner does not take all. I'm speaking as a very fair commentator here. I've lost the respects I had for the PNC, but I still care for a few persons. For example, Amna Ali, who else? Particularly Amna Ali, after seeing the behavior of the Minister of Health, Ms. Lawrence, or former Minister of Health. I don't know what has happened to her, but that's her political part I heard, her political personality. But Amna Ali was very professional and kind in many ways to me, and many other people, taking away her capacity as the Chief Whip of Parliament. She also was an ambassador of peace who did many good things for many people. I can't think, Mr. Gaskin, the Minister of Business, former Minister of Business, who came out because he was a foreign citizen, but who dealt with dignity and honor. And when the president instructed 3 ministers to make contact with me by a special letter, Minister Jordan disrespected the president, never made contact. Minister Bulkan disrespected the community minister, disrespected the president, but Mr. Gaskin made contact with me in something evil and destructive that was being perpetuated by what I call the shadow cabinet of cabinet and of parliament, who, when contracts are awarded, they come together on their own and do things to evil, to hurt people. And so I wrote the president, and the president took action, but Winston Jordan, Minister of Finance, X, and Bulkan, who the letters were copied to, never made contact. I made contact with him several times, and I was promised he would call back. He never called back. These people were not born to be ministers. To understand that you have to deal with people even if you don't like them. And you have to win their hearts. You already have the hearts of those who you like and who like you. You have to win the hearts, politician, of those people who may not like you. And make them your friends. That is the power of good politics. And that is the art of mastering the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Back to the article. From 1968, the PNC rigged successive elections, including the one under Desmond Hoyt in 1985. A little commentary. I personally like Desmond Hoyt. I appreciate him much. I respect him. I love to go to his centenary of death. I love to, and so forth, because I like the guy. But how in 1985 could he and Hamilton Green, 2 Afro-Guyanese, run in the country and hope to win an election? How they could do that in a country as heterogeneous as we are? So the election had to be rigged. That is the reality of it. They did not use good diplomacy or tact. That's the one mistake Mr. Hughes, Desmond Hoyt, made in 1985. Back to the article. By Freddie Kissoon. There was also a fraudulent referendum in 1968. I was there, I saw that. From the first electoral massacre in 1968. I like the guy's words, man. Freddie Kissoon, boy, I like your language, man. From the first electoral massacre in 1968, the country saw continuous exodus so by the time the Americans negotiated with Chetty Jagan to have free and fair elections in 1992, Guyana was virtually a ruined land, with most of its talented and wealthy people gone. But the relentless exodus included countless ordinary souls who secured illegal landing in several Caribbean states and Western countries. From 1968 to Desmond Hoyt's innovative directions in political economy in 1987. Guyanese living here were an unhappy people, pessimistic and joyless. I was here, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the same time I decided to leave Guyana. I couldn't take it anymore. Or I might have started to lead a revolution, and I might have been killed. It was joyless, painful time in the country. That is the time Desmond Hoyt tried to do something to bring some form of relief to the Guyanese people. Back to the article. Most, if not all, wanted to get out. I did. I had to leave. It was a miserable society without hope and hopelessly going nowhere in this quagmire of depressive nihilism. I chose to return, but also drag my soulful, beautiful, educated wife with me. I knew what a wasteland Guyana was until 1992, when people could have voted freely and see their votes counted. From 1992, elections were held. Incumbents came and went. Then came March 2nd, 2020. This was the atavistic reversion to 1968, 1973, 1978, 1980, 1985. I'm going to read that back again, ladies and gentlemen. I lived through all these rigged elections, but I never saw such a naked electoral terrorism as I saw from March 2nd to June 15th in the year 2020. No one under 40 years of age can imagine the shape of the collective psyche of the society where a permanent dictatorship had its knees on the body of its citizens. And because of its popular Nawala, they had their knees on the necks of the citizens of this country. This happened again in March 2020. We were back to permanent PNC dictatorship. The reincarnation of Forbes Burnham came down from the horizon to Guyana. But the era of rigged elections had passed. The world was not prepared to touch a Guyana again. The world knew that Guyana did not deserve another round of PNC dictatorship, another round of Burnhamism, another round of dissolution of the right to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, the international community knew that if they did this in this election for the next 50 years, maybe 100 years, maybe forever, the knees of the dictatorship would be on our necks perpetually and would be a shame and a disgrace in the Caribbean and other third world countries. We did not deserve another round of PNC dictatorship, another round of Burnhamism, another round of dissolution of the right to vote. This is here where we must see the price value of Golding, Arthur, Ambassador Lynch, High Commissioner Chatterjee, High Commissioner Quinn, and Ambassador Canto. These people saved Guyana. Ladies and gentlemen, a commentary, and look at what they did using their acolytes and their satellites to abuse these people, to humiliate them in public, in the streets, by the Ashwin's building, and by the headquarters of GCOM, where the police even moved. You needed a commission of inquiry, Mr. President, their finale. What happened there and the police? Why was the professional officer removed? And why did the police move to cause colleagues of mine who were local observers and the diplomatic people to feel threatened at the headquarters of GCOM more than anywhere else? You need a commission of inquiry for that. And if I may say again, remind, commission of inquiry, what happened to our treasury and why was the COVID-19 task force used as an alternative or an alternate cabinet to extract money from the treasury. These people saved Guyana. These influential international actors saw the naked electoral terrorism perpetuated by the PNC, AFC and the GCOM surrogates, and they told Guyana and the world they will stop electoral terrorism in Guyana because they will confront it. I say, commentary, thank you, world. Thank you, United Nations. Thank you, United States of America. Thank you, European Union. Thank you, Private Sector Commission and all the other local observers. Thank you, ambassadors who saved Guyana and Guyanese from perdition and destruction, where contracts and appointments would be given at the whim and fancy of a known powerhouse, a warlord, so to say. I have nicknamed him. Confronted, back to the article, talking about the international observers, confronted they did. Guyana won yesterday, the 16th. Freedom was won on the 16th. It was only possible because of Golding, Arthur, Ambassador Lynch, High Commissioner Chatterjee, High Commissioner Quinn, and Ambassador Cantu. I implore President Ali, please borrow some funds from some part of the world and make a bronze bust of Golding, Arthur, Ambassador Lynch, High Commissioner Chatterjee, High Commissioner Quinn, and Ambassador Cantu. And I'll have a piece. I'll make a special one if they don't, of these people, and put it in my compound at my residence or out of my residence for the public to see, and to turn it into a shrine of reverence. I, Ocean Can, will do it, making it maybe from the high quality styrofoam product. I can't afford that bronze thing that he's talking about, and if the government can't do it, I will do it in my own way. And friends and families, you know me, I always achieve what I want, and I always do what I think is good and what is right, and I always do it by the grace of God and His universe. Back to the article. 40 years from now, the young generation will look at these faces and they will read the inscriptions below. They will see that if it weren't for these great humans, these passionate humans, these outstanding democratic characters, Guyana would have been dead as it was under Forbes Supernum. I want the PPP leaders to know that I will use my pen consistently to call for these busts to be made. I will suggest placement at either the arrival section of the airport or the roundabout at the KTC wall or by the cenotaph. Do it, President Ali, just do it. But I'm going to tell you, I heard you don't look at Facebook, but people might tell you, I will try to get it to you otherwise. If they don't do it, I will do it. Maybe not with bronze, but I, yours truly, I swear and take oath that I will do it. Even if I put it at my own place, because I might not get a permission in front of my residence in Atlantic Gardens. Friends and families, therein ends what might be the second to last of elections 2020, Guyana. But I would like to assure you, my friends, that RK is Guyana Free Media, which saw its true birth, because it started a bit before, raising nationalistic concerns, safety measures and so on, but it became the powerhouse, it did, at the GCOM building, at the count of the vote, under Mingo, who caused all the terror and destruction and the waste of tens upon tens upon tens of millions of dollars in a recount. I ask also the government of Guyana to see legalistically if we can collect back that money from Mr. Mingo and his acolytes and his satellites who might have been involved in this derisive recount and very costly, which is totally unnecessary. Friends and families, let us pray for His Excellency President Irfan Ali, the tactician and the master himself, the champion of the earth, Dr. Baron Jagdeo, Prime Minister Brigadier Phillips, and all the powerhouses who will comprise the ministries and who will help to grow and develop and make Guyana the paradise it deserves to be. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji Roshan Khan, saying Salam, Namaste, thank you, farewell, and God's blessings to you.